What is up, you guys? We are back with another episode of Investigating Innovation with the I2C. I'm your host, Madison Travis, and on today's episode, we're going to be sitting down with Matt Sloane. He's the CEO of Skyfire and also a new tenant here at the I2C. We're going to be asking him about what made him move to Huntsville, what his company's looking like, and what his big goals are now that he's moved into the I2C. Let's roll. Hey, Matt, what's up? We're so glad to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
glad to be
we're
here.
super excited. You know, you're 3 hours in the I2C, and you got to get in the Spark studio early. So super excited to have you. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your company. I don't know, just give us the rundown.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Matt Sloane. I'm the founder and CEO of Skyfire Consulting. We are actually a bigger company called Atlanta Drone Group Incorporated, which I'm also the CEO. It's really just one big company, but
Yes.
The primary focus of our company is public safety drone integration. So we work a lot with police and fire departments, emergency management agencies, and the goal is to get them this life-saving technology of drones that they can incorporate into their daily workflows. So the technology, obviously the military has been using for quite a long time, but really integrating it into public safety is something that's only happened in the last 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for 6. And so when we first started doing it, we would talk to people about drones and they're like, what do I need that for? That's a toy. I've seen that at Best Buy.
Yeah.
But really over the last couple of years, people have come to understand that, with thermal imaging cameras and the ability to basically send a robot where you would rather not send a human being actually makes the job a lot safer. And so that's kind of our goal.
Super cool.
So we actually do a fair bit of education. That's kind of most of what we do is just getting people to understand, that this data is accurate. On the law enforcement side, they want to know, is it accurate enough to take to court as evidence? Things like that. Part. So there's a lot of work going on here at UAH and in other places where they have UAS programs to really validate the data and make sure that it's accurate enough to stand by. But we talk about this all the time, particularly in the mapping part of what we do. Is like you can actually get a more accurate map of something with a drone than you can with a guy at
I believe that
survey, GPS and all that kind of stuff. So it really does. It really makes the workflow more effective.
Yeah. So. This is kind of an off-topic question, but related. So are you guys planning to kind of like work with like UH students and like different programs here to kind of like, I don't know, research or maybe like aspects like that?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah.
We've actually done some work with the UAS program here at UAH long before I even thought about moving to Huntsville. Casey Calameo is one of the researchers there, and they do a lot of stuff with predictive wildfire mapping. So that's how we sort of cross paths, and actually that's how I ended up here at I2C. So I called Casey and asked if y'all had a program like this, and he pointed me in this direction. So I think that's my goal. Is to really work with them. Obviously they have some FAA sanctioned programs that we would love to help out with, and then take advantage of the students here and the engineering background that Huntsville as a whole has is going to be exciting.
Oh, for sure. So how did this all come about? You've mentioned 2 companies now that you're kind of CEO of. Like, was there like a specific moment where you kind of realized like, oh, like this is what I want to do? Or was it a process? Like what did that look like?
Yeah. So I spent 14 years actually working at CNN. I was a producer there. I really enjoyed it a lot. It's a little bit of a different organization today than it was when I was there. But I worked in medical news. So I was sort of out of the fray of all this political nonsense.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. And I was a producer there, like I said, for a long time. And actually when I decided in early 2014 I was going to leave and do something as an entrepreneur, and I had no idea what that was going to be. But I was still freelancing for CNN at the time, and I got asked to come speak to a group of firefighters about how the media covers major stories. And so I went down to our public safety training center in Georgia and gave them a little explainer on how CNN covers stories.
Right.
I had just gotten my first drone the day before. And I said, oh, now this is the new thing. We got these flying cameras now. So you thought reporters were a pain when they were on a tripod with a microphone. Now we got these flying things. And I had 4 fire chiefs come up to me afterward and they say, hey, how do we get that for our department? And it was like a light bulb immediately went off in my head. I had also worked in EMS for several years during college, and so I sort of knew the public safety world a little.
Yeah.
And honestly, we started the company the next day and just started researching, and like I said, we went to our first show and everybody was like, "What the?"
Wait, what are you doing?
So we were a little discouraged by that, but it's definitely come a long way.
Sometimes, especially like with the tech startup world, everything that is here at the I2C, that's how a lot of people look at the entrepreneurs in the beginning. It's like, I just don't know if I can get behind it. And then
early. We were too early.
Oh, right. And then later down the road, they're like, man, should have got on that train when it passed, But, it's been around for a minute. What does your day-to-day look like? How has that changed over the years? And what are you doing at the company?
Bigger company, bigger problems. So, before it was, can we keep the lights on?
Right.
It's not so much that anymore, but, I have 22 people working for me now. So now it's, can I keep 22 people's families fed?
Yes.
That's kind of my main goal. But no, it's funny because, in the beginning I was doing everything and I had 3 business partners. 2 of them had day jobs at the time. Actually, 3 of them, the other 3 had day jobs. So this was like kind of just me. That's obviously changed. But, I was doing everything in the beginning. And now I don't get to do much in the way of flying drones.
Yeah.
So I think that's changed quite a bit. As they say, I've started working on the business instead of working in the business. Mm-hmm. And that took a little getting used to.
Oh, for sure.
The majority of what I do is, partnerships and schmoozing and investor relations and stuff like that. And I can't tell you the last time I put my hands on a drone. But it's cool. I mean, that's, as a producer, that's kind of what I did in my last life was, schmooze and talk to people and grease the wheels. And so I'm doing a lot of that. And actually what's been cool about it is because I'm not so integral to the day-to-day, that allowed me to move out to here to Huntsville while the other people are back in Atlanta. And that's been a really cool change.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of opportunity to focus on the growth side of things without having, it's great whenever you actually get good people working for you and you trust them to actually run those day-to-day operations.
I can't say enough about my team. We have such an incredible team of people who are just so good at what they do, and we're growing, and we've acquired 2 companies in the last year, and so that's provided its own challenges, but I think it's been really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So kind of going off of how you've grown and you have more people now, would you say what kind of challenges did 2020 pose for you? Like, did things change, or would you say it was pretty steady? Like, what did it look like last year?
Yeah, this is fascinating to me about 2020. Just I think the books and the studies and all the stuff that's going to come out about this time are going to be so interesting. But we had gone into 2020. We had just taken some investor money, so we had some money in the bank, which was nice.
Yes.
And we were kind of looking at 2020 as a transition year. We used to sell a lot of drone equipment. We stopped doing that because there's a lot of people that do that and do it well. Yeah. And we didn't need to do it, and it was work intensive, and the profit margins were very thin, and it was a lot of work for So we would still direct people in the right way. We'd help them pick the equipment, but we just wouldn't actually sell it.
Okay.
So one of the things we told our investors going into 2020 was, hey, just be ready for our revenue to drop like crazy because we're going to get rid of this line of business. But our costs are going to go down significantly because we're not fronting, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we sort of knew it was going to be a transition year anyway, but we felt kind of bad about it because we're like, oh my God, the market's going to be like churning and burning.
Right.
And then the pandemic hit, and like in some ways it actually gave us an excuse to kind of take a step back.
That is true.
So that was unexpected.
Yeah.
Our business definitely slowed down. And so we did take advantage of some of the COVID loans and things that were out there, and we're still in that process. But it really set us up to go into this year strong. Get the team where we want it to be. Like I said, the pandemic had already started when we acquired the first company, and then we acquired another one in August. Yeah. We also hired our director of public safety, Mike Rogers, who he just retired out of the FBI as their nationwide UAS program manager. So. Like literally the best expert in the world on law enforcement drones. So we're super excited to have him.
That's awesome.
That's also part of the reason for the move to Huntsville too, because obviously the FBI is coming here in a big way.
Yes, very big way.
So it's been weird. Like our revenue actually didn't go down all that much, which was awesome. Great.
Yeah.
But in the fact that it did, our investors are like, oh yeah, 2020, we
2020,
get it.
yeah, for real. And I think it gives you a lot of time to focus on those things that you may not have focused on in a normal year or in a year of like crazy growth because you just didn't have the time to. Yeah. So 2020 gave you a time to like step back and just look at things for what it is. What can we work on? How can we grow next year because this year just doesn't seem like the year. So, speaking of that, what is 2021 looking like? Like, what goals do you kind of have for this year moving forward?
Yeah, we're super excited about what's coming this
Awesome.
year. As I said a couple of times, we acquired 2 companies last year. One was a company called Viking UAS. Viking actually manufactured some test aircraft for the Army that actually went through airworthiness testing here at the Arsenal, which is cool.
Yes.
And we've really kind of pushed them into the public safety drone manufacturing area. So lots of really exciting stuff is going to be coming out here pretty soon. I can't say a whole lot about it yet. I'll come back and tell you once.
Okay, we'll have to have you back on.
Lots of really great stuff coming, and we've got a massive client
awesome.
Ready to accept some very cool drones here in the next month or two. So that's really exciting. So I think that's honestly become a huge focus of what we're doing.
Right.
And then also with us bringing on Mike Rogers, his big focus is going to be on training. And so, he's trained pretty much every FBI agent that flies a drone today has gone through Mike's training at some point.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to kind of adding his knowledge into the mix.
Yeah,
we're doing a lot more specialized training. So SWAT specific, law enforcement stuff, evidence collection, things like that.
That's
so
really cool.
Moving on from the basics into the real specifics.
Which only makes you more valuable and more profitable.
For sure.
So that's awesome. Well, you kind of mentioned a little bit about what brought you here to Huntsville and the I2C, but Huntsville is very much growing and has a lot of opportunity. What kind of specifics kind of drew you to the I2C? Like, what are you liking so far? What are the benefits, I guess?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think let me back up a step and say we actually started thinking about moving to Huntsville for family reasons, right? We had family here, and I had never been here. I mean, I'd certainly heard about it, but we came up from Atlanta and just fell in love with it because it's a little bit slower paced than Atlanta. And, my wife said, I want a subdivision with a lot of kids, but I also want mountains, and I also want a whole bunch of open space. And I was like, we're never going to find all that in one place. And then we did. So we live in a great subdivision with tons of kids, and there's a mountain out back, and we can get, on top of Cecil Ashburn or whatever in 10 minutes and go hiking if we want. So that's what initially drew us here. And then, as I said, I started talking to my coworkers, and the one was like, well, our aircraft go through airworthiness testing at the Arsenal. And then Mike said, the FBI is moving a whole bunch of people there. And I was like, wow, this is
all the pieces.
All roads lead to Huntsville. So we kind of literally on a whim, just sold our house and found one here and moved to Huntsville. So a great decision, by the way. I've only been here a month and a half, but I'm loving it. And then as far as I2C, I mean, honestly, what started the conversation was I have 2 young kids and I absolutely cannot work from home or I'll lose my mind. And so I was looking around for, what could possibly be a good fit. And I talked to Casey, as I said, one of the UAS researchers here at UAH. And I was like, do you guys have any kind of program like that? And he pointed me towards I2C. And then I spent some time talking to RigVed, and I was just like, wow, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Because I don't need a ton of space. I don't need a huge office. It's just me. But I love the idea of being able to collaborate with students and with researchers. And there's lots of, grant-funded projects and FAA-sponsored projects and, a lot of the defense stuff. And so it made a ton of sense. The facility's beautiful. You got everything I'm looking for, and it's out of my house. So I love my kids, but they don't exactly. They're not conducive to getting work done. So.
No, not the best helpers.
Not at all. Love them, but
Well, we're super excited to have you here, and it really is one of those places that I feel like once you get in, it's really hard to leave. It brings so many benefits to your business, to even just life in general, where you're just constantly networking and just building that, your portfolio too, but also just your clientele, your connections. And it's just one of those things that it helps people with no matter what stage you're in. I'm an intern, I'm learning like crazy, but the entrepreneurs that are here, all their stories, and I love talking to them and kind of checking in with them and really seeing how things are going, because I love the companies that are here. It's so much fun. I learned so much from all of you guys. So just checking in.
It's cool because I was like, if I could just get an office space somewhere, but I wouldn't meet anybody. There would be no networking. And so this made a whole lot more sense.
Oh, for sure.
I'm super looking forward to the post-COVID era when we can all actually get together and talk about stuff. And so I'm sure it'll take me longer to meet everybody just because everybody's kind of remote. But.
The networking events that we used to have before COVID hit, Oh my gosh, so much fun. Like literally just sit out there in the lobby for like hours just talking. And it's so much fun. The workshops, it's great. They're probably going to be bigger and better, just because.
Can't wait.
Yeah, you're in for a good one for sure. So what are you most looking forward to about being here in Huntsville? There's so many benefits. You've kind of mentioned a lot of it, business-wise and personal life-wise. What are you most looking forward to?
I mean, honestly, I've first of all, I'm a total space nerd. So like
well,
the idea
you're in that
that
place.
I'm in the right place for that. So the idea that I can like drive down the highway and drive past the Saturn V rocket all the time is pretty cool. But I also, defense is not a place that we've played a lot in. And I think we have the infrastructure to really do that now more so than ever.
Yeah.
And so I'm just looking forward to learning. What's really cool about living here is like literally every one of my neighbors either works for NASA or the military. So
get used to it.
Which is, I knew there was going to be a lot of it. I didn't realize it was like actually everybody.
Oh no, like literally everyone.
Everyone. Yeah. So that's been cool already. I've met some great neighbors who have some ideas for me, which is cool. But yeah, I mean, I think that's, I lived in Atlanta for 20 years. Yeah. I grew up in Philadelphia for 18 years. So this is like only the third place I've ever lived. And so, and as an adult, I came to Atlanta when I was 18. So it's kind of cool to be in a new place as an adult just to get to like check out the bars and the restaurants. And it's, people were like, I think Huntsville's kind of a small town. I'm like, it's not that small anymore and growing like crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy because Huntsville just was very different because my hometown's I've mentioned this before on here, but only about 45 minutes. And Huntsville was the place we went to like shop, to the movies, like things like that. Now Huntsville's crazy different to me. Like the side of Huntsville I see now is totally different. Always meeting like innovative people and creative mindsets, and it's great. I love it. I thrive here for sure. I'll be sad to leave, but it's great.
Well, and we're getting a Cheesecake Factory, so like, you've made it when Cheesecake Factory.
You've made it, right? When you get the Cheesecake Factory bread, like that's the best. No, it's great. So you have so much experience and a lot of just depth in your work experience. What kind of advice would you give to those looking to start their own company? Yeah,
I mean, I think that the one thing that's helped me through my entire career, even before I was an entrepreneur, was just ask for what you want, because you're never going to get it if you don't ask. You may not get it even if you do ask, but it's worth asking. So just a quick sort of sidebar here. When I got my internship at CNN, I was 18. I had just started in school at Emory. It was the day after the 2000 election. So we didn't have a president, which was the first time that had happened in my lifetime. So my roommates and I were like, hey, let's just go down to CNN. Like something cool's got to be going on. So we literally just went down there. They happened to be giving away free tickets to a talk show that was in the atrium at the time. And I just was in the audience. I actually sat right behind the host. So my mom was like, saw me on TV. And I just walked up to the host after the show and I was like, hey, how do I get an internship here? And she was like, oh, talk to that lady. A month later, I was working at CNN as a freshman, which, as you probably know, is like unheard of. And I never left. So I was there for 14 years. So I think the long and short of it is, if you don't ask, you're not going to get it. And, I think entrepreneurs have to understand that it's risky. There's a lot of stress involved. And I think I heard this on Shark Tank. They said, entrepreneurs are the only group of people that'll work 100 hours a week so they don't have to work 40 hours a week. And that's so true. I mean, it never turns off, and you just have to know that going into it. I have a lot of colleagues who are still at CNN who are like, man, I couldn't do what you're doing. I have to have somebody to like tell me what to do every day. And I hated that. And I've told my staff, like, I don't care what time you come to work. I don't care what time you go home. If we get unlimited vacation at Skyfire because I'm like, you're either going to put the work in or you're not.
No, I mean, that's true. Yeah.
I try to like keep the corporate like, rules to a minimum because I hate those constraints. And so, Mark Zuckerberg said, move fast and break things. We have another investor his thing is burn it, break it, blow it up. I feel really strongly that, you have to try things and see what works. And there's no magic to it. It's just a lot of hard work. I don't feel like we had a great master plan going in. I feel like we've just made a series of good decisions along the way. And we learned some pretty hard lessons, but we learned them quickly and didn't do it again.
Right. And it helps when you have good people around you just a good team that is all motivated, really. That's all. I mean, motivation, I feel like, is really key. And I talked with Jonathan. He has DaytoDay here, and he was talking about just the optimism that you really just have to have. Like he was like, just some days are harder than others, and you just gotta keep moving.
Well, some days you think to yourself like, why am I doing this again? Like,
literally,
is this really going to pay off at the end? When we went to go get a mortgage for our house that we just bought here, I was like, why am I doing this again? This is a real pain.
Yeah, for real. And you're like, this decision, like just up and moving. At least it's not too far. At least you didn't like move across the country.
No. And I'm back in Atlanta like every other week, so it's not that big a deal. But but just like getting a mortgage as a business owner was a massive struggle. And you start to question like, why am I doing this to myself? But then you realize that the upside is huge. I mean, I've been able to be there for my kids growing up, and I travel as much as I did when I worked at CNN, but I'm doing it for my own business, for my family.
Right. I feel like you see the immediate benefit more, and you really feel that. And when people support your business, they're not just supporting your business; they're supporting you too. Right. It's a very personal, intimate relationship that you have with the work you do each day. Yeah. And like as he said, there's been times where you just like you're looking at the mounting bills and the credit card statements, and that's the other thing too is like I think you just have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Oh yeah. I mean, we've had every credit card maxed out forever, and you just somebody called it the Visa round of funding. You haven't taken any investor money yet, but all of your credit cards are maxed out. So. It's just I'd never once carried a balance on a credit card before I started this company, and you just have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Yep, 100%. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming in here today. We are so excited to see what Skyfire does here at the I2C. We're looking forward to seeing you guys grow and just to hear about how much you're loving Huntsville. We're super excited to have super excited to have your family here. So thank you for coming on, and we got to have you back on in a few months so we can hear about the exciting stuff that you can't tell us about.
Absolutely, yes, and you'll be thrilled to hear about it. It's very cool stuff. So.
Thanks, Matt. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
And that concludes today's episode, you guys. I hope you really enjoyed getting to hear about Matt's story and all the endeavors he's embarking on as he's coming here to the Rocket City. We're super excited to see what Skyfire does. Be on the lookout for who I'm going to interview next. In the meantime, make sure you're following us on all of our socials at UHI2C on Instagram and UAH Invention to Innovation Center on Facebook. Onward and upward.